The rope creaked before she did. It rubbed against skin already torn raw, and each sway of the wind pulled another breath out of Clara's chest. She hung upside down from the old oak at Gaviota Pass, caught by one leg, blood running warm along her calf before falling into the cracked earth below. The land had been dry for too long, and even her blood seemed to vanish the moment it touched the dust. Her buckskin dress was ripped and twisted by the wind, no longer doing its job of covering her. Sand clung to her hair, knotted and heavy. The paint on her face, worn for strength, had melted into dark streaks from sweat and tears. Each breath felt sharp and thin, like breathing through broken glass. Footsteps came from the trail. Slow, measured, not rushed, not afraid. Clara tried to lift her head, but the world spun sideways. All she could see were boots stopping in front of her. Old boots, scuffed and dusty, the kind worn by someone who walked more than he talked. Shame hit her harder than the pain. She reached with shaking hands, trying to pull her dress down, but the rope only tightened. Her chest squeezed. Her voice barely carried pleas. She said, "Do not look between my legs like that." For a moment, even the wind seemed to stop. Caleb Hartman froze. Heat rushed to his face. His first instinct was to turn away, to step back, to pretend he had not seen her like this. His hand hovered near, the knife at his side, not from threat, but from habit. Then he noticed what mattered: the rope. How it had cut deep into her skin. How the flesh was red and torn, sand stuck to open wounds. There was nothing improper there, only pain. "I am sorry," he said quietly. He did not rush. He did not stare. He reached for his knife, cut the rope in one clean motion, and the tension snapped. Clara dropped, light as a bundle of sticks, and Caleb caught her before she hit. The ground, the wind returned, dry and sharp, as if nothing had happened, as if the land had not just changed forever. Caleb lowered her onto the grass. Her body trembled once, then went still, her breathing uneven. The smell of blood mixed with dust filled the air. He pulled off his neckcloth and wrapped it gently around the rope burns, working fast but careful. He kept his eyes where they belonged. Clara turned her face away. Her hands shook as she tried to cover herself with what remained of her dress. The oak above them rustled, its dry leaves clicking like whispers. "I am sorry," Caleb said again, slower this time, not asking to be forgiven, just saying he saw what needed to be seen. She did not answer. Her eyes stared up at the pale sky. A single tear slid back into her hair. Caleb took off his coat and laid it over her, not touching more than he had to. Then he stepped back. The space he gave her spoke louder than words. "They will come back," Clara whispered at last. He never leaves things unfinished. Caleb looked around the pass. Loose stone, deep ruts from wagon wheels. A place hidden enough for cruelty, open enough that no one would hear it. He had seen places like this before, far from here, where harm was called order and silence was called peace. He bent and lifted her again. She weighed almost nothing. Not weak, just worn down by carrying too much for too long. No one touches. "You again," he said. It was not a loud promise. It was one he made to himself. They left the oak behind as the sun climbed higher. Its shadow shrank slowly, like a scar that refused to fade. The wind softened as they walked into the valley. Clara rested her head against his shoulder, not because she trusted him, but because she had nothing left to fight with. They stopped where the land changed. The late sun stretched long shadows across Owens Valley. The earth here was cracked and pale, like shed skin, but cutting through it was water. The Owens River moved quietly, not wide or fast, but alive. Caleb set her down near the bank. Clara knelt and reached into the water. It was cold. She shivered as if the river remembered her. She lowered her head until her forehead touched her. Wet hand and whispered words in her own tongue. Not a prayer. A greeting. "This is the blood of the valley," she said. "Without it, everything dies." Caleb followed her gaze. Small ditches cut away from the river, pulling water aside. The land beyond them was dull and struggling. He knew this trick. No guns, no noise. Just move the water and wait. My father left this land to me, Clara said. Long before this place had its current name. The papers are old, but they are real. She spoke of her mother, who never left the river even when told she did not belong. Of years when people shared water, with nothing but promises. Then Silas Crow arrived with new maps and clean words that hid dirty work. "They call it development," Clara said. "I call it theft." Caleb stayed quiet. He had heard names like Crow before. Men who wore law like a coat and took it off. "When convenient, he wants the water," she continued. "If I sign, this valley dries up." A breeze passed, carrying the smell of mud and life. Caleb washed his hands in the river. The cold bit his skin. It was real. Not something drawn on. "Paper, you are not alone," he said. It was not a vow. It was an understanding. Clara looked at him. Her eyes were tired, but something steady lived behind them now. The river flowed between them. Waiting by evening, the name Crow was already moving through the valley. People spoke it softly. Some called Clara stubborn. Some said she did not understand progress. At the saloon, men said Crow was only doing what had to be done. Caleb listened. He did not argue. He knew better than to shout truth at closed doors. Crow's men appeared near the river soon after. No threats, just looks. New boot prints. A ditch moved overnight. Water bending the wrong way. "He wants me tired," Clara said. Caleb recognized. The war cut supplies. Wait, people began to avoid her. Not from hate, but fear. The Pute elders came quietly. They did not trust Caleb. History had taught them caution. He did not explain. He stayed by the river each day. When Crow's men came, he stood. Still, unmoving. One night Clara asked, "What if they make you leave?" "Then they will have to say why," Caleb replied. Some battles did not need guns, just time, and refusal as the river thinned under the dark sky. Both of them knew this was only the beginning. The hardest part was still ahead. The valley did not change overnight. It rarely did. Change here came slowly, like thirst, creeping in until people forgot what it felt like to be full. Morning after morning, Caleb stood by the river. He did not build fences. He did not post signs. He simply stayed. His shadow stretched across the water as the sun rose, then pulled back as the heat settled in. Crow's men noticed. They said nothing. Silence was their language. Clara worked the land while she healed. Her leg burned where the rope had bitten, a deep ache that woke her before dawn. She wrapped it tight and kept moving. Pain was familiar. What unsettled her was the waiting. The sense that something unseen was circling, patient and hungry. Word spread fast in Owens Valley. Some said Clara had a protector now. Others said Caleb was only there for a while, that men like him always left once things got hard. At the Lone Pine Saloon, glasses clinked and voices dropped when her name came up. Folks told themselves it was none of their business. Drought made cowards out of good people. Crow did not show his hand right away. He never rushed. Instead, the river grew thinner. Another ditch cut overnight. Then another. Water that once sang softly now whispered. "He wants me worn down," Clara said one evening as they watched the stream weaken. "Wants me desperate enough to sign." Caleb nodded. He had seen wars fought this way. Starve the ground, starve the spirit. Let people beg for the very thing that was stolen from them. The Pute elders came again, quiet as before. They stood at the edge of the land, watching Caleb as much as the water. Trust was not given. It was tested. Caleb felt it in the way their eyes followed his hands, in how they measured his distance from Clara. That night, they gathered by a small fire. No greetings, just presents. One elder laid out a hand-drawn map, old and worn. It showed the river before it was bent, before the ditches cut like scars, not just hers. The elder said, tapping the map. Many, Clara leaned closer. Names repeated, dates matched. A pattern clear as the stars above them. They never erase the truth, she said softly. They just tear it apart. The decision formed without words. This fight would not be won by shouting. It would be won by showing. The news came days later. A stagecoach bound for Sacramento never arrived. The horses were found off the road, reins cut clean. No bodies, no money taken. Only papers missing, Caleb. And Clara followed the trail as the sun dipped low. Wheel tracks led nowhere, swallowed by sand. In a narrow cut between rocks, they found scraps of leather and torn pages. Seals scraped clean. They took what mattered, Clara said. Left the rest to confuse the story. As night fell, the valley seemed to hold its breath. Crickets buzzed low. The wind carried the smell of iron. Someone had been hurt here, maybe worse. But silence was the point. They returned to the elders. One of them brought forward another map, then another. Different hands, same marks, same mistakes. The truth is still here, the elder said, just scattered. The fire burned low. When it did, a plan remained. They needed someone from Crow's side, someone who knew the law and how it had been twisted. He arrived at dusk the next day. Caleb recognized the walk before the face. Eli Mercer, a man from another life. A man who once stood shoulder to shoulder with him and later chose comfort over conscience. Eli stopped at the ditch line, not crossing. A small pause, heavy with meaning. You should not be here, Caleb said. Neither should you. Eli replied. They stood in silence, the river murmuring weakly behind them. Eli's eyes moved to the papers laid out on the table, the copies, the marks. Crow will win, Eli said. The law bends his way. Which law? Caleb asked. The one written down or the one we live with? Eli's jaw tightened. He looked older than Caleb remembered. Tired in a way sleep could not fix. He spoke then of altered records, of witnesses paid in debt relief, of a stagecoach that disappeared right on time. Small legal things stacked high enough to crush a valley. I want to sleep, Eli said at last. Without hearing the river run dry in my head, he placed a wrapped bundle on the table. The seal was intact. Crow's name sat near the edge. Not loud, just enough. This will end me, Eli said. Caleb understood. In this land, death was not always quick. You are not doing this for us, Clara said, stepping forward. You are doing it for yourself. Eli met her eyes. He did not look away. When he left, his shadow stretched long in the dying light. They had the proof now, but proof alone did not guarantee justice. It only invited a final move. Crow would not be quiet forever, and somewhere between the thinning river and the gathering night, all three of them knew the next stand would be the most dangerous yet. The courtroom in Los Alamos smelled of old wood and dust. Sunlight crept in through tall windows, laying pale lines across the floor like quiet warnings. Men filled the benches, their faces calm, practiced, used to seeing things decided without them ever lifting a hand. Silas Crow sat near the front. Clean coat, steady hands. A man who believed the room already belonged to him. Clara stood behind the table, small against the wide space. Her legs still ached beneath her dress, the scars hidden but alive. She said nothing. She did not need to. Yet Caleb stepped forward when called. He did not speak at first. He placed something on the judge's desk, a length of rope, frayed, darkened with old blood. A ripple moved through the room. This, Caleb said calmly, was used to force. A signature. Crow smiled thinly. Stories, he said. No place for emotion here. Caleb turned to Clara. He did not signal. He did not ask. She stepped forward on her own. Each step was slow. Deliberate, the room shifted as she reached the stand. Some looked away. Some stared. Clara did not flinch. She drew her cloak aside just enough to show the truth carved into her skin. Rope burns layered over older scars. Wounds that never came from falling. This was not an accident, she said. Her voice did not shake. This was pressure. Silence fell hard. Caleb placed papers on the desk, certified copies. Medical statements. A signed confession. The name at the bottom was Eli Mercer. Crow stood up too fast. It's fabrication, he snapped. The judge did not look at him. He read, then read again. This is criminal, the judge said. The gavel struck once. Sharp, final two. Deputies stepped forward. Crow's confidence drained from his face, replaced by something small and frantic. As he was led away, his eyes searched the room for allies. None met his gaze. Clara watched him go. No triumph, no anger. Just the quiet ending of something that had tried to break her. Dawn came softly to Owens Valley the next day. Light spilled over the mountains and settled into the land like a careful promise. Crow was gone. The ditches half dug. The contracts unsigned. The valley was still dry, still fragile. But the water was free. Clara stood by the river with a shovel in her hands. Butte elders worked beside her, guiding the flow back toward old paths. Not all at once. Just enough. The water moved. Slowly, heavy, alive. We share by season, Clara said. When there is little, the weakest drink first. No papers, no seals. Just memory and care. Caleb stood apart, leaning against a fence. No one asked him to stay. No one asked him to leave. For once, his mind was quiet. The sound of water, no. Longer felt like an accusation at dusk. Clara brought him food and a small patch of buckskin from her dress. Not a debt, she said. Just thanks. Caleb nodded. I'll be in Lone Pine, he said. If the nights get difficult, it did not promise more. The river flowed on, not fast, not strong, but in the right direction. In the west, strength was easy to spot. Kindness was quieter. It stood by the river when no one else would. It refused to look away. Caleb had learned that too late in life for medals, but early enough for peace. And in a land where water once decided who lived and who disappeared, a woman stood. Scars visible, truth unbent, and let the valley breathe again.